Welcome to The Leaders Who Care, a podcast powered by Dynamis Group. We are here to give the stage and support to those committed to create a positive and lasting impact, way beyond the profits and margins, the leaders of the world who care for others and serve a bigger purpose. Join us on the journey of creating a better, more caring world. And now to your host, Marian Temelkov.
Happy Thursday, dear audience. I'm very excited today to welcome a special guest who is actually very close to my heart, and especially with the motto that she believes in the area that I really spent years of my life. And as you know, we're on a mission to bring together some of the most caring leaders from every corner of the world. And today, we have Judith Jungmann joining us. She's the Chief HR Officer of Beckers Group, and her motto is unleashing potential of individuals and organizations, which is a very powerful motto, and seeing people not just for who they are, but who they could become. It's very close to my heart, and I'd love to really get to know more about this. Judith, first of all, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. So happy to be here, Marian. And I'm sure we have a lot of joy in our conversation.
Excellent. Starting with the motto, how did you come to the motto, Judith? Because that's, it sounds, you really embody everything you do around that, and it's not just a motto, it's much more. It's a way of living by the sounds of it for you.
Exactly. So it's really a long time motto already, and maybe some people would think it's a little bit banal because unleashing potential, that you listen to that or read that a lot. But for me, it's really something very deep. What I'm fascinated, and you say you have found out that the people aspect, the human aspect of business, is actually the one that is the most important, and that is also fascinating for you. And I always joke, as I'm now working in HR or in people for 25 years, I already found out very early in my career and I feel really privileged. And in this function, you observe people for sure on an everyday basis. And what I was getting fascinated with, and then I also found maybe I have a little bit of talent for that as well, that I really try to understand the person, listen to them, and almost get a little movie in front of my eyes what they can do in the future. And sometimes I could understand, because I was also tracking them then over the years, that actually it realized. And then it was really about sometimes even seeing something in some person that they are not really aware of that themselves yet. And that is super fascinating, right? And then I'm just a little catalyst. Yeah? So it's because the person needs to do the work and the development themselves. But I think I can be an impulse giver, a catalyst. I give you a personal example because I do it all the time. I'm really, it's not just during the job, it's also in the private life. So I have a friend that I know for a long time. He's a professor in a university for cardio, so Professor Dr. And I was having regular lunches with him, and he was in his job now in this position at an elite university for 10 years. And he was talking about his family and his sons, how much he likes them. And then I'm a little bit a challenger. And I said one day to him, you tell me about your family. You tell me also about some ongoing topics, people issues in your institute at the university. But I think it's a little bit calm, it's a little bit, you are now there 10 years, you were super excited, you build a big center where some great scientists come together, but now it's a little bit slow. So what is actually exciting you? And then he told me only about his family. And then I was really challenging him and say, okay, so you're too young to just focus only on your family, and there gets your excitement and your rewards. Why don't you really reconsider now? What can you do now also on the professional side? And we had some lunches, and now he's a founder of a biotech company next to his professor job, and he would tell you that actually, yes, I was the one that brought this little, was he in his back, yeah, and was really triggering him a bit. What's the next game for him? Yeah? And then his energy level went up, yeah, and it was also that he met some people that were interested in working with him, and then all unfolded, and I'm super happy because it seems that this will be a super cool business that he's doing next to his professor role. That's just one example, yeah. So I'm really getting fascinated, and then my pride is I love what is that moving, and I know that I'm just one little centimeter in that, or I don't know, a little butterfly, and then it can really move. But I also understood it so many times during my daily job when I, for example, took over a team and there was a junior person, a really great one, and she said, yeah, I want to now, I was doing administration of trainings, it was in my HR team, and I'm really used to that and everything, and now I would love to smell a little bit, she was really saying, smell a little bit the atmosphere of real trainings, and I would like to observe it. And I said, no. You are not smelling something, you are not just observing, you are doing the thing. And then I can tell you, after some months, this was such a great young female manager. She was exploding because she was so good in what she was doing. She was then conducting some leadership modules where she had also, there was more of methodology where she really had also the credibility then, we trained her in that, and she was doing a fantastic job. And it was absolutely not about administration anymore or a little bit observing some more senior guy, but she was doing it herself. So those are my goosebumps moments that I can create myself all the time. Yeah? So I'm really fascinated about that.
Judith, thank you for sharing your amazing, real examples. This is fantastic. I think that, to me, this is what leadership is about, to actually unleash the potential, to help people grow, and sincerely take care of them, along that journey, because they will have highs and lows, but be by their side and have their back, and encouragement is very important. The question I have for young people or current even people that are considering CHRO, talent, or really, because we know that every business relationship is all depending on people. Yeah, we have AI and technology, but people create those technologies. So, and then who creates them, and very important, what values they have, what philosophy they have. This really matters. So the question here is to thrive at your job, at what you do, because you can see that energy, that passion you have, that you have, call it a talent to ignite people, to be a catalyst, to plant, and I see also in personally, I've been told that as well many times, with number of stories and inspiring people on doing that. The question I have is, do you think you need to have the talent to do what you do, or can you develop it as you get into that?
Yeah, I really believe, Marian, in this. Okay, what is talent probably is 5%, the rest is work. And I heard once a ratio where if you want to be world class, then it's 15% of talent and the rest is sweat. And wow. I kind of believe in that. So I think the worst thing is, and I also, this growth mindset theory, if people are getting praise on how intelligent they are or how talented they are, they get actually afraid to take risks and really learn. So we should give them praise for effort they are making and learning effort. So yeah, I would actually stay with this 15% of talent and the rest is sweat and continuous learning.
A lot of people will be asking, where do you get these numbers from?
There is is that the guy that wrote about David and Goliath, this with the curly hair, Markham Gladwell, something like that. I need to look it up. Yeah, I think he was looking at those ratios. That would be my guess. Well, yeah, I read a lot of books, so sometimes I get confused.
That's fantastic. Really, thank you for sharing. Obviously, these examples, because what are the pillars and foundations, if you like, if someone or the early signs? You said hard work and great, of course, but to persevere with the hard work and to have that grit, as you mentioned earlier in our previous earlier discussion. What are the foundations? Like, what are the pillars that are needed for the role of what you do?
On the people role, you mean?
Yes, on the people role.
So I would, okay. So I think curiosity about learning and observing, because it's such a broad field.
Yeah.
And I also feel you need to build some credibility on really understanding the business. So that's probably also a banal thing, but and now I think it was improving a lot. But in the Exco team that I'm in, I'm by chance representing people, but it's not that I'm asleep, the whole time, or very cautious or very shy. And then I wake up if it's a people topic, and I contribute all the time. And actually, I think courage is the second one.
Okay.
Courage to speak up, because I also needed to train that, to be honest, because I'm sitting there, I'm a lawyer by background and I'm HR. So my credibility in knowing about the business is first low, right? And then I was in the beginning, when I was the first time in a leadership team, I said, maybe, I'm not very competent here. But then over time, I found out actually the questions in my head need to be asked. And then now I joke, and now I'm quite mature, and I'm quite secure also in myself. I say, okay, I'm the one with the stupid questions. And I know now that all the others are not daring to ask the stupid, simple questions, but they're actually very happy that there is somebody that brings that everybody down again on, okay, what is really the thing here? What is the essence that we want to build? And they're actually quite grateful if somebody takes the courage to say, okay, so let me understand now really what we try to achieve here. So I'm quite active actually in those business discussions that are absolutely not about, on the first glance, HR topics. Mm-hmm. So you need to have courage. Also courage to really say, no, I don't think we should do it this way. Because there's a lot on how we do business, right? It's the why, okay, the purpose we need to be aligned on. It's the what we want to achieve. But as a people person, I think I'm also about how do we explain it to people? How do we communicate continuously? How do we also react to challenge? something like that. So there, I think you also need to have courage to stand up and say, okay, attention, big CEO, big whatever, senior leader, people don't understand you. Or worse, you're talking the speech, but you're actually not walking the speech. So there, I think courage is important to also be the one that says, no, sorry, people are not understanding this. So we need to now re-explain it, or actually also look in the mirror, what do we represent with our behavior? So that takes some courage. So that, I think, is the second trait. So curiosity, courage, and for sure then also something about balancing and understanding and really be a good listener, a good observer. And also change your mind. I like this thing about what the big thinkers, Adam Grant, I think, is this new book about. Nowadays, the world is really complex. We have not only complicated problems where we just repeat what we did in the past. Now it's about, okay, so this is a big problem. How can we get more perspectives on the table to really analyze it? There will be not just one person that is the genius and knows, has done it 1,000 times and now can just repeat it. Now we have bigger problems that we need to kind of try to grasp, understand, and then really test and learn how to get a grip on that. So I think we are actually moving into another era there. And there, I think it's good to also see, so to really achieve that there can be some diverse thinking there. And what I meant by balance is also, again, this, I think you are also, you are really teaching that life is a balance of different fields. And if they're getting out of balance, then you have a time bomb or something like that, right? Yeah. And I think that is also something where you need to, as a people person, you need to have the pulse on the organization, what's going on. And especially with mental health, I realized that a lot. And I can tell you also where I was changing my mind. And I think we now need to really continuously also ask ourselves, where do I need to change my mind? So I give you, and I'm not a cynical person at all, but I actually said before COVID, okay, all these yoga lessons of companies where they say, okay, mental health, we need to also take care of it. I actually was joking in an almost cynical way. Okay, this is for companies that shout at people during the day, and then as a band-aid, they send their colleagues to yoga lessons in the evening that they can calm down because they were treated so badly during the day. So that was my kind of thinking at that time. Now in COVID, I realized that, and I think it's in a lot of aspects of the business, that now the society, the government, institutions, they are not solving those big problems anymore. So companies need to come much more in the forefront of things and take more responsibility. And the mental health topic is now so big. It was big before already, but now it's even growing bigger, that now we cannot ignore it. So I really changed my mind and I said, okay, now we need also some active initiatives to help people.
No, thank you, Judy. And of course, all this wrapped up by sincere love and care for people, like what you say, to see them thrive, to see them grow, and that's really makes a big difference. What does allyship mean to you?
I'm now fascinated with this concept. And it was funny because that was my old friends from my former company. I was visiting them and they had some books lying around, Better Allies. And the book cover is really ugly. So I don't like books. I read a lot of books, but I don't like ugly book covers. So I was like, I don't like it. But then they recommended me the book and I was reading it and I was getting fascinated with this idea to understand your own privileges, then feel bad at a second and say, oh my God, how many privileges do I have? I already was quite aware of my privileges because I had 6 years out of my 11 years at Danone, I had an international job and I was traveling to emerging countries. And my biggest, I think, kind of aha moment was in Bangladesh, where we did a project in slums of Bangladesh. And I can tell you, afterwards, I said, okay, so I was returning to Germany. After that, I was quite happy to have a safe surroundings, safe streets, and this kind of thing. And I had some unbelievable, unforgettable moments where I then said, oh my God, my complaints about minor stuff, they're ridiculous. I need to now change my attitude. So I had already some glimpses of aha moments, how privileged we are in Europe. I had that already, just traveling and working with emerging countries. I also used to work with Ukraine at that time, and Ukraine is already in trouble for some years, right? We know that. Okay, and now it's really the terrible situation. And I was really getting very impressed how resilient people are, how risk-taking, how strong they are in very difficult circumstances. And then comparing to our little bubble situation in Western Europe. So I had already some ideas, but now with this book, it was really this 50 questions of your privileges. And then also this insight about call to action. Okay, don't feel ashamed that you have privileges, but take it as an obligation that with your privileges, you can help not so privileged people to be seen, to be understood, and then also make really systemic changes that they have more chances to succeed. And I'm really fascinated about this topic.
Well,
so at the moment,
sharing that, what we can recommend to people. You're absolutely raising a very important point here, that we are so blessed that in the Western Europe, especially in US, we are being living for pretty long, peaceful periods with a lot of privileges and abundance of really access to technology, internet, food. It is really housing, convenience, really, and safety. Now we're seeing obviously a lot of that being affected by obviously the uncertainty we are having in other parts of the world, especially in Ukraine. And it just makes you realize that you could take a call, take an action, and just help others. Where if people want to do something, and that really encouragement of allyship, how did you do it? What would be your advice? Where do they start if they want to take an action?
I would always start in your surroundings first. And really get curious and listen more and try to look in your network. So who has a different background than myself, and just ask them and get curious, really, and listen, because this listening skills, I can also tell you, I needed to work very, very thoroughly on them. At one point in time, I think it's also in your career, right? You're your expert, and then you need to speak up and make a point that people are seeing you and promoting you. And then you almost need to relearn listening again. And you can also see that a lot of people love speaking more than listening. And sometimes I'm also falling in this trap. But I think still, yes, this really understanding the person is very important. And also try to capture moments that bring you out of your comfort zone. I give you one example. We had organized a social day in my in one of my former companies, and I'm always torn a little bit, because I think a social day where you go to some NGO initiatives is first of all team building. Let's not pretend we are making an impact on others' lives if we dedicate one day in the year and then feel very social or whatever because we were painting a wall in a kindergarten or something. Yeah, so let's say that's more our team building, and it gives us a good feeling ourselves. But what I in this year said, I want to go into something where I really get a little bit out of my comfort zone. And I chose two. I chose an inclusive kindergarten here in Berlin and a home for blind, dementia sick elderly women. So both out of my comfort zone. And then we had two leaders there, and they took some time to explain us what their concept is. And I can tell you, I was super inspired. And if I just take the example of the inclusive kindergarten, so here in Neukölln, it's not the best, posh neighborhood. In Berlin, more the opposite, even if it's getting now trendy. So there was an inclusive kindergarten. There was a guy, the leader there was a Jordanian guy. And he said he was always a little bit an outsider, because people could get into school when they reached a certain height, and so his fellow kids, they were the same age and they were already reaching this height, and he was always smaller. So he was not allowed into school. And he was making then a big noise and asked to come to school, and made a big effort that he was seen, and then finally he was allowed in. And he took a kind of mission in his life at that time, that he wants to include people. So inclusion is his life motto. And I found that so inspiring. Yeah? And I think we have so many opportunities to listen to people, not the big, great guys, business leaders, visionaries. There's almost everybody can tell their own story that is inspiring. And I would actually, inspire people to look for those people that are really purpose-driven, that have probably a special background, and they are making a change in their own,
environment,
life, and not just giving a charity and a check or whatever, which it's not really making an impact. I don't want to downplay it, but I think listening, understanding the stories, and connect on a human level, that is really needed nowadays.
I love what you just said, that they're the unsung heroes, in society, because there's so many examples, and would love to see more of those. And we also considering, which is now a good moment to ask you to nominate who would be a couple of people that you would want to celebrate at the unsung heroes that may not be in such a high level necessarily, but they're making a difference around their environment.
So I see a lot of them. To give you names, this is not inclusive, but I would mention, for example, and I don't remember his name, unfortunately, this person at this inclusive kindergarten that really says, I want to make a difference for those kids. And he was putting the focus on building language skills for the kids. Yeah. So if I would inform a case for myself, or a cause for myself, I think the investment in non-privileged children is also paying off big time, right? So I would praise the people that are in this space, probably, yeah, but there's so many people that
Excellent.
are really
Well,
building
we
some bridges also.
Well, we celebrate that these unsung heroes today, and thank you for mentioning this case, and really appreciate and value, obviously, the leader of that kindergarten in Berlin that's really making an impact. So thank you for bringing this up. We're very passionate about environment and really where people can thrive rather than survive. How do you really create an environment where people can be inspired, that want to come? Obviously, we talk about with COVID, and we've seen that the environment matters. Often people realize that they could work out of home. They don't have to come to the office. So it's a whole big debate about coming to work or not coming to office, or not coming to office. So it's a separate topic. But maybe here is what the point is: what can we do really to create an environment where people are thriving, not surviving, in your experience?
Yeah, well, it's a big thing, right? So what I always try to do within the people agenda is that it makes sense, and that is building bridges. I'm all about democratizing and really having simple tools. So I have given up on classical leadership trainings, and because we know, right, what is making the difference? It's culture, it's leadership, and it's also how can I influence? How can I learn as myself? Am I being developed, right? Those are also the correlations then for business success, right? If you have those elements. So I'm a fan of listening to people and understand what they understand and feel is strong. I also like this. We do an engagement survey regularly, and they are looking at clarity and energy. So I like simple models, Marian, at the moment, right? I also introduced the quarterly feedback talk because I wanted to have people at least quarterly doing a wrap up. Where do we stand? And we have 5 questions. We have how are you? Which sounds very simple, but actually now it's actually a mental health question if you ask it in the right way. If you're really interested in. And I can tell you last year when we had a raw material crisis, we still had COVID, high anxiety, stress levels, lots of things to do. I spent sometimes the whole check-in conversation, we call it like this, on how are you? Just one debate on just how are you? I feel you have a high stress level. How can we help now? What can we prioritize? What is giving you also energy? So that's the first question. And then the second one, clarity about your role and responsibility. Also prioritization, clarity. If I don't know what I'm working on, if I feel I do a lot of things, but they are not making any impact, okay, we need to change. And then what I do really well, which is making a lot of energy. I heard just recently in a little event, HR event here in Berlin, that they said resilience is actually built if you use your strengths. I like that, because just this thing about I'm working too much, I'm so stressed, I need more sofa time or whatever, my work-life balance. Then if people then sit on the sofa and watch TV, I don't think that is creating a balanced life. Balanced life is, I love this motto about do more what you love and do less what you loathe. I really like this very simple concept. So if colleagues work with their strengths, if they're first aware of it, and you know that people are sometimes absolutely not aware what their strengths are because they think that's normal. So they need somebody that actually mirrors them and say, no, this is a fantastic strength. Sometimes people are embarrassed about their strengths. So building on your strengths, it's actually creating high energy then. So that is, I think, what we actually need to create. not just cut something and then the other thing is this continuous improvement. Okay, what can I do? What can I improve? So towards the future, not towards the past, getting defensive, having a lot of excuses or whatever, having a fight or flight, amygdala reaction. No, it's about in the future, what can I do? What can I improve? This is also, people want progress, right? That's also a human need. Progress is happiness. I really believe in that. And challenge. People want challenge. I had last town hall. I said, okay, would you rate the quality of your last check-in conversation? And then we had a good scoring and everything. And I said, okay, so now give us what could improve this. And we actually had a lot of people saying, I want more critical feedback. I want to learn, because that is helping me also to grow. Yeah? So we are underestimating that. And then the last point is, what can I get as a support from you as a manager? Yeah? Also a little bit upward feedback then. So I really believe in that. And at Beckers, every operator gets that, that sets of question or this conversation every quarter, and also the senior manager. Everybody gets the same questions. So because they are relevant for everybody, for sure.
No, thank you for sharing. Fantastic. I think this is really very powerful. And if companies haven't deployed similar systems or way, I think is a great advice here. So that's really helpful. We have a question from somebody we both really respect and know, and Stoyan is asking here, Judith, do you believe in the bottom-up approach to transforming a culture, and how can we create a culture of ownership and managing up?
Yeah, I believe in that. I think it's a lazy answer, especially from some of my people colleagues, to say, oh, the tone needs to come from the top. If we don't have a perfect leadership team and they are giving the big inspiration, then we can do nothing. So I think that's a little bit cheap. And I also believe, and when I really had the privilege, I only had dream jobs. And when I look at my jobs, there was a lot about change and transformation. Because that's a continuous thing. It's also banal. Business is change, right? So so it's not a very new topic. And what I saw when it can happen is you need to plant some. So you need to know where you're going. And I think that also has some element that the leadership team needs to know where they're going. Yeah? That's also their role. So I like to have a kind of picture in my head about, and then then I need to really include the organization, and I need to plant some little seeds there, and I need to work with them to make them into plants and bigger trees then. And it needs to not be then something that you give, and then you do change management and you try to, whatever. It's really, it needs to grow then also more naturally or something. If you need to push it all the time, it will not work. Yeah? So this bottom up, I think, is super important. I also don't like this consumerism that we have sometimes. Of people in organizations where we say, oh yeah, we have really bad leaders, so we can do nothing. Yeah? And we are very smart, we comment all the time with the most smartest statements, but we don't take responsibility. And there, I can tell you, I get also very clear, this is consumerism behavior. Everybody here in the company is responsible that, first of all, we have a great time together. Why should we waste our precious life? It's not fun to work together. And where we also, create results together. That's why we are here. And everybody needs to take their own responsibility. So I'm very firm in that. I also don't like, if you do engagement surveys, I'm really about data and following up and doing actions. But I also don't like for me, it's always the moment after the survey. Okay, so there's some criticism, we can improve those things, but now we need to be engaged together, also bottom up again, to work on that together. Yeah? It's not just I now participated to the survey, fantastic, and now I'm leaning back again and see what happens. That I don't like. Yeah? So that we cannot work like this. Everybody has their role to play, and everybody is a leader in their own field. Yeah? It's not hierarchical, whatever, a setup or something. Yes, bottom up, we need that.
No, thank you, Judy. Fantastic. And how do you take care of yourself to be really operating at your level and to have these energy levels? You're inspiring many other people. You're doing so many things, but how do you sustain yourself?
So I think I learned some lessons, especially if you travel a lot, then you understand you are kind of an athlete as well, also in those jobs. So you need to take care of your physical health, your mental health. So physically, I really understood I need to do sports like very regularly. Yeah? So 3 times a week, I have a personal trainer doing Pilates, so I get flexible and strong. I always do something every day. So really physically, the body needs to also sweat and and bend. I took up meditation with a meditation teacher. I first experimented with an app because I also saw in stressful times, and I told you I read constantly, and then I think it was Tribe of Mentors or something by Tim Ferriss. He was analyzing that all those world-class people in their different fields, the first thing that they have in common is a mindfulness practice or a meditation practice. And I said, okay, so now I need to step up and I need to do this because at one point in time I also want to be great in what I'm doing. So, okay, why should I ignore this advice? And then I took also a meditation teacher or a trainer or coach or something to really get better at that. And that is really a life changer, to stay calm, to not take everything so personally. Big game changer. Also nutrition. I try to listen to a lot of podcasts, biohackers and everything. I don't overdo it, but I also I try to be very aware of what's healthy for your body, and then also finding some joy. And the biggest thing I think is connections and relationships and having social contact. You also need to take care of that. What I listed for you, and sleep for sure as well. What I listed for you is also coming out of some phases where I did not take care enough of sleep. I did not take care enough of physical training. I did not care enough about the right nutrition. And I even did not care enough about nurturing friendships. So I really do it out of, tough times.
Yeah.
And I understand, okay, so maybe some people are more smart and they, they anticipate more. My learnings is also, okay, tough times. Okay, now I need to really reconsider and also work on proactive measures. So that sometimes you learn the hard way as well, right?
No, wonderful advice. Indeed, this is so important, from the spiritual to the mental to the physical. In the physical, you got the sleep, the nutrition, the training. Of course, financial is another one that is important, and relationships, that you mentioned, that is so important to take care. And this is a great wrap up and summary. Final question: what are your hopes for the future, and how can we with a brighter future, how can we spread the care culture?
So I hope that, I think we are coming out, and I hope it's the peak now of some years of going much more into, I'm my single concern as a person. I think we are quite in some egocentric times where everybody is optimizing themselves, and have a very small circle where they engage with, like, my closest family, my closest circle of friends, and not a lot of people engage a little bit further than that, right? And I think COVID, with all the high stress and anxiety levels, brought people even more towards themselves, and then created some really dark things also, about sense of entitlement, and and really high expectations, more on others but not so much on yourself. So I hope that we move out of that, and towards communities again, towards building the bridges, listening more to each other, and really caring for each other. We now, in our people sustainability stream, we defined actually our activities according to the human needs. And I think actually, and I really was inspired by a consultant to consider this. And I think, I really need again to completely rework everything I did in HR. If we don't base our people work on human needs, it doesn't make any sense. And it's so universal. It's universal for the world globally. So I'm really a big fan of that. And I think that is something that could help us to really understand what are the human needs. Because
I just want to ask you this question, because this is so relevant, and I know the power of this, which is really linked to the future as well. If more companies understand the human needs and they can think about their business and how does their business relate to them, please list them out, Judith. The human needs.
So I need to give you now the Beckers version because we adapted a little bit, but it's almost the same. So we had something, and that is probably not in the Maslow pyramid. It's a foundation of having the right policies in place, anti-discrimination policy, non-child labor, every company needs to have this foundation where you make clear this is what we are not accepting, or something like that, right? And also fair labor contracts and this kind of thing. So that's the foundation. Then we define physiological needs and safety needs. And I think with Maslow, it's one thing. But for us, as we have 24 factories, we said physiological needs are one thing that we really need to understand. Ergonomics, automation, what's the temperature, are our factories, do they have the right light? Then you have safety, which is then also going into psychological safety. I'm sure you know this debate about it. Mental health. It's not just safety. Do I have an accident if I enter the factory or something?
It dates back from the ancient times, when in the tribal times, when you sleep, you don't want to be eaten by an animal. So somebody watching over you, and that safety is so important in order to calm down and
absolutely. Yeah, and that is also the big topic, right? That we're constantly stressed with social media, blah, blah. Okay, so that's safety. Then, and now we are turning pretty much in the same than Maslow. Love and belonging.
Yes.
Team spirit, being included, understanding I'm accepted how I am, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also appreciation, getting some positive feedback, some thank yous. Then esteem. That's the people development. Okay, I can bring myself in, I'm being heard, I can make an impact, but I can also develop. And I have some career chances as well.
Growth and transformation, it's important.
Exactly. And then the self-actualization. which is okay. At Beckers Group, we are pioneering in sustainability. That's our purpose. But it's also, so do I link with the purpose of the company? So I think it's so spot on, and probably we need to actually say, okay, HR is about that. Because you have a lot of topics that are feeding into living wage, for example. So to have a decent income out of your one job, that you don't need to work 2 or 3 jobs to take care of your family. This is, for example, also something that I think we put it under safety or something like that.
And also one more to mention here, dynamism and variety is also one of the other human needs, that we all want the safety.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
But if you actually, we all humans, that links to the joy, that we need that variety, that connection. We can do this differently, or we could change.
Absolutely.
So we need the routine, but also we need the variety and dynamism.
I think we put that, then you're completely right, under self-esteem, that you really have development opportunities. You're completely right. That is, yes, that's the one that is also, you want to differentiate. You want to be part of a tribe, but you also want to differentiate yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Judith, it's been fascinating. You've mentioned so many really useful system gems of how to do things, and thank you for being so structured in a way, and just share those points. We'll definitely spread them out to the community of the leaders who care, and really thank you once again for being with us today, for taking care of others, inspiring others. And please, keep spreading that care. And it really was wonderful to have you today.
Thank you so much. I loved our conversation. I loved your questions, and this also inspiring me again to get very sharp in, what is really creating this special, magical moments, that can turn around the situation.
Thank you, Judith. Blessings goes to you, your team. And as this is a mental health month, we just today actually we have with our team here, we are fasting and praying for mental and physical health to everyone out there that's needed, and especially starting with our families, our community, and clients, etc., and spreading into the world. So sending you all this, and it was really a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judith.